Glory Fellowship podcast. I want to say welcome to our Glory family and everybody else that's watching and listening. We've been talking about this for about a year and really wanted to get this going. And first of all, before I even go any further, I want to thank Jonathan Smothers and Josh Odom for all their work behind the scenes and getting this podcast up and started. A lot of detailed work has gone into it, and so we're just very thankful to them for the work that they've put in. But just wanted to get this podcast going, and I'm here with Adam Brewer. And Adam, we're very informal here.
Yes,
and
they're making faces at us back.
So,
there,
would you rather be called the lead pastor or the senior pastor or Dr. Adam Brewer?
I'd rather be called preacher man.
There you go.
Yeah, so Brother A, preacher man, whatever the lingo is around here.
There you go.
Matter.
We're very informal, but I'm here, and I don't know if I introduced myself. I'm Randy Strachner, the worship pastor, families pastor here at Glory Fellowship, and Adam Brewer, who is our lead pastor. And so we're excited to be here and wanted to start this podcast and just some things about the podcast moving forward. One of our main goals is to maybe on Mondays that we're hoping this will kind of evolve as we go along, is to do a recap of Adam's sermon and maybe hit 2 or 3 points from his sermon, which is what we're going to do today. And then maybe another session later on in the week where we have different people on from the church and talk about different ministries. You know, at times have Philip on or Michelle and talk about things that are going on within the church. And so that's kind of what this podcast is for. Anything, Adam, to add
as
to
I
that?
told you before, if Alabama makes the Final Four in basketball, Philip and I are going to have an hour-long podcast, a special edition. Where we'll talk about that. So nobody can watch it, but it'll help Philip and I feel better.
Yeah, there you go. Y'all would be the Wimp Sanderson and Sonny Smith.
Oh, no. We'd have to censor that. So, well, we're really excited to be doing this. I'm thankful for Randy and these guys and just the opportunity. I'm looking forward to seeing how this evolves, talking about things that you're dealing with, things that the church is going through. And I think this has the opportunity to be really good as it builds.
Right, yeah, and just another way of getting more information out to our church, and as we focus more and more on discipleship, and that's one of our goals here, and so I think it's going to be really good.
Really good.
So this sermon series has been out of Matthew chapter 5, really focusing on what everyone would know and be aware of as the Beatitudes.
Correct.
And then, so you want to talk a little bit about some points from yesterday's sermon?
Yeah, that's, we've been walking through Matthew's gospel and we're kind of at Matthew 5, 6, and 7, which we're dealing with the Beatitudes or the heart attitudes of kingdom citizens and what we ought to be growing in. And yesterday, we stopped and talked a little bit about blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. And I don't want to do an entire sermon recap, but it really is this singleness, this loyalty to the Lord, and our focus on serving Him. That this purity of heart, that we're not distracted, that we're not unmixed with worldliness or selfishness, but that we're growing in purity. And I've already gotten some feedback yesterday and then again this morning about one of the specific things that I mentioned in the second service yesterday. I didn't bring this up in the first service, but I did in the second service because we have more young adults there and more kids and more teenagers, and felt like it would be very relevant to what some of our families deal with. And Randy, you know, and Philip knows, Philip deals with this, and others. We get a lot of questions from our church family in regards to parenting, in regards to some of the issues that we're all dealing with and trying to figure out what's the wisest thing to do. And yesterday in the second service, as we were talking about and linking the purity of heart with Jesus' teaching about lust and purity in that area, one of the things that we mentioned was that we as Christian parents, and really all parents, but Christian parents, we have a responsibility when it comes to iPhones, social media, technology with our kids and with our teenagers. And yesterday, I hope that I made this clear. I was not out to judge anybody. I was not out to make, just a general sweeping statement of what you and your family should do. But I do want us to be aware that there are a lot of kids that are wanting phones. There are a lot of parents that feel like their kids are going to be made fun of if they don't have phones and if they're not on social media and the TikTok and the Instagram. And so yesterday in the message, we talked a little bit about this, and I really want to build on this for just a moment about the real dangers that are out there. You know, there studies now that this technology and now that social media and our kids and teenagers being engaged with it, now that enough time has gone by, we have the opportunity to research some of the impacts and effects of what's happening. And the news is not good. Mm-hmm. The news is very troubling.
Right.
You know, yesterday, in relationship to what Jesus was teaching on lust, I really warned our parents about the pornographic images that are at our disposal. You know, used to, decades ago, it would have been much more difficult to have access to pornographic images, to sexual content. That is not the case today. And as difficult and as destructive as it is for adults, how much more so are these images and these videos, can that have a destructive impact on young men and their brain development and how they view members of the opposite sex? And it's really not just boys only, it's girls as well.
Right.
And so, you know, there's more studies that are being done, and with social media, the dangers of what's happening specifically with girls and social media in regards to depression and suicidal thoughts. And there again, the news is not good. And we don't have time to get into the root of all of this and where all this is coming from. But I do think that it's a discussion that we need to be having in our homes. We need to be having in our small groups, not to necessarily judge one another or to hammer one another because of a decision that's been made. Yes, my kids have phones, my teenagers have phones. But what can we do to educate our parents, our youth, about these issues so that they can make a wise decision in their home?
Right.
Because it's not about what everybody else is doing.
Mm-hmm.
It's about our responsibility as parents to be disciple makers in our home.
Right.
So I know Philip sees this with our youth. I know that these are issues that he has to talk about and to deal with. And I would just say to you, you know, we are in this together. I have two boys that are 12 and now 9 years old, and those questions get asked, those questions get talked about. I know with my own self how quickly you can become addicted to scrolling, and I'm not even on Instagram or TikTok to see a lot of what goes on, but what I'm hearing about what's going on with our youth and our teenagers in this community and in this world, very troubling in this environment.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that, you know, social media and all of that could be used for such a positive thing, and in a lot of ways it is, but
Yes.
a lot of times what happens is the negative ends up far outweighing the positive, and parents can start off with, you know,
Good
intentions of
Yes.
what it's going to be, but it's very easily, you know, going the other way.
Well, the truth be told, our kids know how to navigate social media far better than most of
Yes,
us
they do.
adults. They know how to navigate around, and even some of the boundaries that have been put in place and things that would block access to certain images or videos, they know how to navigate around that better than we do,
Right.
which is a real scary thing. And it's just something that, you know, a lot of times we think that, oh, I don't need to talk about this, and if I ignore this, my kid's different than everybody else, and I can ignore this, and it's no big deal. I don't want to have that hard conversation. I don't want my kid to look like, you know, he's coming out of the Stone Age and he or she doesn't have a phone. Those are not the questions we ought to be asking. It's not about whether or not our kids are popular, whether they're with the hip crowd. The questions we ought to be asking is, what is this doing to my kid's soul? What is this doing to my kid's brain? What is this doing to my kids' relational ability and ability to have conversations? What is this doing to the emotional state of my kid long term when they become more entrenched in technology and social media, and less about having conversations and less about being kids and being teenagers? These are the questions that we've got to start asking as we think about down the road for our kids.
Right. Well, I know you said you had already heard from a few people, and I've heard from a few as well. And then, of course, you said we get questions about it and all the time from parents about that. And so I know there are some who are doing some thinking about it, and hopefully that's going to have an impact on, the decisions they make as far as that goes.
And hopefully the conversations between our church members and between others, that this will be the spark that really, okay, let's have some serious conversations about why we're doing what we're doing, and are we doing enough to protect our kids from folks that really want to destroy them through the means of technology. And again, we can't say everything that could be said here.
Yeah.
But if the conversation starts, then that's what we want.
Right. Well, moving forward, kind of give us a little preview of the next sermon.
So next week, the goal is to finish up Sermon on the Mount this upcoming Sunday. And what we're going to be doing, I've mentioned Andrew Hebert's book, Shepherding Like Jesus, that I've been reading from a pastoral perspective. And he does something where he connects one of the Beatitudes with one of the teachings of Jesus in the rest of the Sermon on the Mount. And so hopefully this week we're going to look at peacemaking, what it is to be a peacemaker, the lengths that Jesus went to bring peace between us and God, and then our responsibility as peacemakers, and also what it means to be persecuted for righteousness' sake. And so that'll finish up this segment in the Sermon on the Mount, or this sermon through Matthew, and then we'll move on to Matthew 8 in a couple weeks.
That sounds great. Well, we hope that has been helpful and impactful to you. And again, we're excited about doing this each week, and we want to just invite everybody to come on Wednesday night, 6 o'clock, prayer time and Bible study. And then on Sunday mornings at 9 and 10:30, we have care groups and worship services going on. So we invite you to come be a part at Glory Fellowship.
Thank you.